Hey, happy Monday. So today I started in Romans chapter 1, and a specific verse stuck out. So let's define some words. Let's talk about it. It's Romans 1:28. It says, "And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient." So I'm sitting there this morning and I'm thinking about this, and we're going to read some more, of course, and it's talking about how there were people who had a reprobate mind. What does that mean? What does it mean to have a reprobate mind? So a reprobate mind means that they've been rejected, that they've been abandoned in error, abandoned in sin, lost to grace. And it's often times talked of about being apostasy. It's leaving what you've professed. Now, he gave them over to that mind. They already had that mind. How did they become fully reprobate, where he just said, okay, you get what you want? Because in this case, they didn't want God. They didn't want to retain him. There's several other verses that can help us identify or define, what a reprobate is. You see it in Titus 1. It said that they professed to know God, but denied him in works, and that they were abominable and disobedient. So these are also, characteristics of a reprobate mind. It tells you in 2 Timothy 3 that it was talking about the story in Moses where Jannes and Jambres resisted him. It said they resisted the truth and that they had corrupt minds. So someone who's reprobate, they're the ones technically that has rejected God. They're the ones that have abandoned truth. They've decided to step away from grace. They've decided that we're going to leave what we previously believed or what we previously professed, and we're going to be disobedient. And we're going to resist God, resist the truth. We're going to corrupt our minds. So that's like a pretty good definition of being a reprobate. But if you read a little bit before that, you'll see verses 19 through 21. So here's the thing. It says, because that which may be known of God is manifested in them. This is talking about God's creation, you and me, all of us. So because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has showed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse, because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God. Neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. So why does God have the right to decide what's acceptable and unacceptable? Why does he have the right to judge? Well, some of those very reasons are because we were his creation. We were created in his image, and we know that there's a God. We may not know exactly who that God is until it's revealed to us, but we know that there is a God because he did reveal that to us. We also know we have a conscience of right and wrong. That's why when people do wrong things, they tend to hide it, or deny that they're doing it, or make excuses for it. But the Word of God tells us right here that we know, because not only were we created by God, but we were created in his image. And God, so what he did is it says he gave them over, but for this cause he gave them over. God's merciful. God's patient. There's only a few times you read in the Bible where judgment was like instantaneously. And when you read about that, there were very specific sins involved, or at least when you study it out, very specific things were involved. But in this case, God was patient, God was merciful, and God is always desirous. It says he's long-suffering, not willing that any would perish. Like he's long-suffering toward us. And so this isn't typically an immediate thing. Someone who's reprobate knows better, and they're continually resisting God, continually having their mind be corrupt, continually rejecting and abandoning and denying him and what's right altogether. And so we can't put this on God and be upset or say he did this, he made this. It's not that, because he didn't. And if you read verse 28 again, it says, as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge. They didn't want what he had to say. They didn't want him. So it's time to ask ourselves, because we need to do these evaluations often. What is my view of God? And what is my view of his word? Am I going to accept what it says, or am I going to reject it? Because that constant rejecting, think about a Pharaoh in the hardened heart, think about it, what it talks about with sin and being blinded by it. Because the longer that we harden our hearts towards the truth and towards God and His Word, the harder it gets. That's what produces a reprobate mind. All right, our heart, the seat of our affections. It's who we are in the inside, it's our mind. And as long as we continually harden our heart, it will produce those reprobate minds. So what does that look like? He tells us right here: being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful. And it even goes on to say, who knowing the judgment of God, because He was merciful enough to tell us what was going to happen. It says, who knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. What's my view of God? What's my view of His Word? Do I accept it or do I reject it? Will I be reprobate? Or will I just allow the truth of His Word, that He is God and that we're created in His image and there is a right and a wrong way? All right, be blessed.